I got to say happy birthday to the old man. And for another time, I'll tell you the story when Mrs. Cook took over my Christmas party and played the piano and had everybody super excited about her presence there. We did have a really good time. I have to acknowledge my full-time chaperone, mother of my 3 children, my lovely wife, Angelica. And I gotta say, the man who definitely needs a chaperone is Mac Wilburn. My buddy Jim Ramzor over there, and thank you, Dr. Shin, for everything you do. And so before I get to Clark, I have to say Susan Durant. Because behind every great man, my mother taught me there is a great woman. And so if Susan could just stand and say hello. But I was gonna read the Wikipedia version about Clark. And I decided that you guys could read Wikipedia on your own and learn about his great accomplishments. He's a Notre Dame lawyer. He was instrumental in the Reagan campaign and administration. He has constantly been an advocate for, as my dad says, the least of these God's children. But I had the chance, Rodney and I flew up to Detroit and got to really know Clark. We played a round of golf and he didn't give me any strokes, but that's okay, at his home course, which he should have. But Clark's got a whole contingency here from Cornerstone. I mean, members, donors, alumni, and that whole group from Cornerstone that he has traveled to bring with him, because this is such a special award for him. It's a special friendship that he shares with my father and with Rodney and recently with me. And I'm really proud to call this guy a friend because of the work that he does. He spent the last 30 years of his life becoming a devout Catholic, but also understanding that we all have a purpose in this world, and he has given himself to inner city black kids in Detroit. I mean, and Rodney and I had a chance to meet with some of the administrators. We met with the kids, the teachers, donors, sponsors, board members. Everyone that he is around has been infected by his charitable goodwill and his passion to make inner city Detroit a better place. And he named a school the Adams Young School, which was dedicated in 2018. And it's a combination of John Adams and Andrew Young. There's also a Lincoln King School, which is a combination of Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King. So teaching inner city kids that the people who look like them are equally as important as the people that they are taught about in their textbooks, our forefathers. And to put my dad and Martin Luther King on equal ground with the founding fathers of our country is quite an honor, but it was quite a risk too, I'm sure. And Clark is a risk taker. He is a very good, spiritual, passionate person who wants to see the world become just a little bit better because Clark Durant was here. And I think he's done a wonderful job of what he's done with the kids that I've met from Cornerstone, with the project that he set up around just helping kids to have a stronger, more grounded opportunity for education. And Cornerstone should be in every city in this country and around the world, educating kids, because like my mother used to say, Gene Young, every child can learn. And Cornerstone is living proof of that, and the work that this man has done is living proof that all children can learn and should have the opportunity to learn. And I'm so proud to call you a friend and my brother, and next time I'm at that golf course, I'm gonna get a few strokes.
I told Bo I'd give him 1 stroke. Now I guess I have to give him 2. Clark Durant did decide to show up tonight. But I want to tell you why. The people who are sitting here, we all joke in different ways that we're friends of Rodney. But the people who are sitting here, each one of you carries within your very spirit the ability to change the ugliness in the world to beauty and goodness. And it can be done through each one of us. When Rodney called me and said that he wanted to bestow the Justice Award, I was deeply touched. When I was at the University of Notre Dame, I taught in the undergraduate school the great books from the ancients to the moderns. And so you have all this ongoing conversation about what is justice. What truly is a just person? And after all these years, I've come to a conclusion: it is only of 2 qualities. Both are relational. The first is God's relationship with His creation, with each of us. And the second is our relationship with each other. And within those 2 relationships, everything can change for what is good. Now, it would be an injustice to this award and to the very idea of justice not to acknowledge, not to express gratitude for what makes this moment possible. For in many ways, honestly, I'm not worthy of this. Ask my wife. But it is the people who come around you that make you better, that help you to overcome your own shortcomings. At Cornerstone, we are about to begin a new journey. And I want to tell you a little anecdote about my friend Andy and I and how we even first met. Winston Churchill brought us together. Rodney Cook was hosting a Churchill exhibition at this museum. And he asked Susan and I if we would participate in a couple of different ways because I have a great love of Churchill. I'm a Winston Churchill Fellow at Westminster College. And so we agreed to participate. And I came down with my wife, and right over there where that gentleman is standing with it, no, that's you, whoever you are, smiling, there was a reception line. And Rodney said to me, I want you to meet our former mayor, Ambassador Andrew Young. And I turned to Rodney and I said, really? Because over the last number of years, 2 people in my life from very different parts of my life had said to me, Clark, you need to meet Andrew Young. The first was a former member of our city council in Detroit, Nick Hood, whose daddy was a part of the early days of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And Nick has served on the couple of our boards, and I'm very grateful to Nick. The other person was a man named Doug Coe. The two people who taught me the most about our Lord, about Jesus, were my mother and Doug Coe. And for years, Doug had said to me during the time that he was spending with me, Clark, you need to meet Andrew Young. So here I stand on a Churchill excuse to come to this place. Andy is sitting right over there, and I wait my turn in line with my wife, and I come up, you may not even remember this, but I came up to Andy and I said, Ambassador, you and I have two friends. And he said, oh really, who are they? And I said, Nick Hood. And he said, you know Nick Hood? Yeah, and that's great. And I said, who's the other? And I said, it's Doug Coe. He said, you know Doug Coe? And right there, we knew in the spirit that only our Lord can make possible, that it was meant to be that we would form this friendship. And on that spot, I'm a little embarrassed about what I'm about to tell you, but on that spot, because Andy was seated, I got down on my knees and we prayed together right there in that reception line. We prayed for the city of Detroit, the city of Atlanta, and the work that we were doing in both places. Since that time, it was 2014 as I recall, we've gone into prison together. Andy has been up, that might not have come out right. We visited prisoners together in prison, although that would have been an honor too. Andy has been to Detroit. We've been to a couple of other places. It is interesting to me, and I say this, I used to tell the kids, and I want to introduce a couple of people here in just a second, but I used to tell the children at Cornerstone that I'm in the late autumn, early winter of my life. As I've gotten to know Andy, it's springtime. I'm only 72. So you've given me new life, my friend. But as I said, gratitude is dependent on those people, known and unknown, in all of our lives. So I want to take just a minute, and I had 24 people come tonight, and I want them all to stand up. I want them all to stand up who came with me on this trip from Detroit. And I want you to give them a round of applause. These are the people, teachers, two principals, donors, friends, even my own family. 3 of our 4 children have given so much to Cornerstone. My daughter Hope, my daughter Maggie, my son Thomas Clark, all have given so much to what we've done. But all the people that you saw there, all deserve the Justice Award, because the real justice takes place when we don't see it. It's the invisible love that is present in the fabric of our lives. And lastly, I just want to say this, and I appreciate my friend Bo Young for what Bo said, but I want to recognize my wife Susan one more time. This June we will have been married for 49 years. She deserves sainthood. Do you have that, Rodney, in your category of trophies? But the most interesting sadness in my life is when I see so many of the children and families that we serve who do not know the richness of the love that can exist and ought to exist in families. And I would ask you to pray for all the broken families, that they may know the fullness of that love. It is rich beyond measure. And at the root of it, it's exactly what God is trying to teach us. And we must teach others. So Rodney, thank you, wherever you are, for your kindness to me as a person and to our work, and for coming to Detroit as you have. I'm very grateful to you, more than I can say. Andy Young, I am deeply grateful that God has brought us together in the work we have done so much. When Andy came to Detroit, and this is my final story, what Cornerstone is trying to do, remember we are a public school, and what I'm about to tell you takes place in no public school in America. And it is this. When Dr. King had to audition for a job, can you imagine that? Martin King having to audition for a job? And the committee that was going to decide whether he got that job was made up of 15 people. 14 of them were against him. They wanted somebody else. It was in January of 1954. And I always ask people, as I will to you right now, that committee of 15 and 14 were against him. In your mind, what was the racial makeup of that committee? And whatever your mind is, wherever it is, the answer is they were all black. And what it was, and this makes it even more powerful, because Dr. King came that day to the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church to give his audition sermon as to whether he'd get a job. And his sermon was entitled, "The Three Dimensions of a Complete Life." He gave that talk in various variations more than any other talk he gave. And most people don't even know the core of it. Those three dimensions of a complete life are length, that you live for a purpose born. You do not get a purpose on your own. It is given to you by our Lord. It is breadth, that you are a person for others. And it is height, that you know God. As a school, a public school, we have now adopted our mission is to help not only our students but ourselves to try to live such a complete life. We got a lot of pushback initially, but my dear friend Andy Young helped me save the day when he came for our dedication in October. Because not only in the way in which we told that story, and many of you, if you go into the museum, you'll see the banner we unveiled in the auditorium that shows the founders and the civil rights leaders joined together as one name to tell this unfolding story of the American promise. But you will see in there the elements of that complete life. But my dear friend Andy Young stood up at the end in a packed public school auditorium, and I asked him to give the blessing that he had done in a parking lot before the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Unseen to the world at the time, John Lewis is on his knees, Ralph Abernathy is on his knees, and all of those who were about to go into a world that would tear them down. And Andy Young stands there as a young man, his hand held high, asking for the Lord's blessing upon the work that was about to take place over that bridge that day in 1965. And in Detroit on October 30th, Andy Young stood in that auditorium and with our students and our teachers and our friends and gave the same blessing. And when the public school authorities called me up and said, you can't do that in a public school the way you've done it, and you can't have this kind of a complete life, we had a very interesting conversation, too long to go in here. But the end was, and I will always be grateful to my friend Andy, that we are able to help the children who come to us and ourselves to live this life of length and breadth and height, and know the source of all life comes from our good Lord. So thank you all for what you do. Thank you for being here. Rodney, thank you very much. Andy.